What's up, everybody? Sovereignty series. This is level 3. I'm Jason Donaldson from Jason Donaldson Healer, helping you remember, because to remember is to heal, and really to remember like the essence, the core of your being, what has been called spirit, your connection to source, to God, the universe. And resting in that place is kind of like floating in the ocean, and then it's easier to have a still point to navigate this human experience, which can be quite intense, as you all are probably aware of, but also super fun and enjoyable. So today I wanted to talk about level 3, and level 3 is responsibility, and this is really about responsibility to self and people we trust. So as we go along this journey, as we work first with the temple of embodying the energy in our temple and the essence of our being, as we start to go out in the world and dance and move with things that are around us that are created and we're creating, then it comes to a point where we're like, oh, I want to create something. No longer do I want to work for someone else or be in someone else's creational container. I want to create my own. And a lot of people avoid this. I know I avoided this most of my life, and I'm only just now really starting to understand this at a deeper level, because a lot of my leadership was done in like groups that were being run by other people. So ultimately their energetic stamp was on what I was doing, and so there's only so far I could go with it and so much I could bring out. But it was a great opportunity, and it was a wonderful experience in so many ways. And it really taught me how to be a leader that listens rather than demands, and a leader that follows rather than is constantly leading and micromanaging. And so that's what this is about at this level of responsibility, is basically you're creating your reality. And so anything that shows up is your responsibility. And that's a harsh one, because, and this isn't normally the case when we're kids, because we're under a certain level of influence of our parents and karmic load. And as a gentleman told me recently, like a lot of our karmic load is superimposed. Like most of it will be worked through at age 12. And a lot of the other stuff is superimposed on us. So we can break free of that. And as we do, we create our own energetic container and our own creations. But as we do that, like we have to take responsibility for what shows up. And at the same time, which is great and challenging, because we reap the rewards, but we also, if something goes wrong, we have to take responsibility. And same with when we have people that we hire or that we're co-creating with. If we're in the leadership position, we have to take responsibility for that, even if it wasn't something that was our fault, but maybe we weren't checking it on something. And that's what a good leader will do. And so that's same with, like, from a therapeutic perspective. If you're working with a client, and very often a good therapist will at some point challenge the client. You build a rapport, you build trust, and you're helping and you're listening and you're guiding. And at a certain point, you have to challenge the client to really help them grow and expand. And this is a little tricky thing to do, because it can trigger that person into a place of fear or defensiveness. And this is what happens in families. This is why therapists don't work with family or friends, because there's just too much comfort and things just get blurted out. And so that doesn't happen. But like in this case where you're working with the therapist be working with a client, and then they challenge them, and often it's transformative, but it has to be done gently. And if it gets to a place where it's too triggering and the person's too upset, there's this thing that was told to me where we fall on our swords. We basically take ownership, like, you're right, I'm sorry, that was wrong of me to say that, you're fine just the way you are, or yeah, that happened and that wasn't right, or whatever it is, because you can't really tell somebody that they need to take responsibility for stuff that's happened to them when it was really hard and traumatic. And sometimes we don't need to, because sometimes that's just a path we chose from a higher level and we don't really know why. And to like force somebody to admit that you created that is abusive. So who's to say? And that's why, a good leader will fall on their sword and be like, right, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, I went too far, and then allow the person to calm down and come back. And very often they'll come back with like, yeah, I kind of overreacted, what was that about? And then we would dive into like, what was that about, rather than making the thing right or wrong, or that they need to understand. And that's one of the biggest things, is like, you can't explain to people their problems. They won't hear it. They're going to fight you, they're going to get defensive. And again, this is what happens with friends and family, is we'll just tell them, why don't you do this, or you always do that, or you do this, or you do that, and it doesn't work. We need to like guide them and inspire them. And that's what I found working with youth is I worked in the schools doing group mentoring, and in groups with men from the community that would come volunteer. And I wasn't the leader in there, and neither were any of the men that came. I mean, I had the position of directing and taking responsibility, but I had to find the leader amongst the boys. Like there was always a leader among them, and it wasn't always obvious. And so it was like highlighting that and then inspiring them to work with me and to co-create something amazing. And that's what I see at level 3 is, who am I employing or who am I working with? And am I helping to make their life better? Am I supporting them in their leadership and helping them grow? Or am I micromanaging and telling them how everything needs to be? And a lot of people were sick of that authoritarian, this is what you need to do, this is the process to do it, and all these things. And sometimes that's helpful in the beginning, but at some point you got to let people go and grow. And same with children. You got to let them go and do their things. You got to let them have an opportunity to get hurt or do something stupid, but you're always there to guide. And they hear more than you think too. When you're telling them things, they all remember. And I met some of these boys as they were older. Like I met a couple of guys that live here on the Big Island that were mentored by guys like me, and then they were older, and they're like, yeah, I remember you guys come talk to us, and I heard everything you said, but like I still wanted to go do it. I still wanted to go experience it. But he said like he still remembered in the back of his head, like, oh yeah, this is what Uncle said, and like this could happen if I keep going down this road. So that's all we do is we embody and we move and we create a path, and we got to really embody it, and then others will follow us along, and we can like hire people and grow and expand our kingdom. And always checking in, like, am I supporting them? Am I helping them grow? And knowing that they're going to project their parental authoritarian stuff onto us, and to not take it personal and use it as an opportunity to really be present with them and call them out on it, but be loving and compassionate. And if it goes too far, like falling on the sword, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, right, I went too far with that. And what else did I want to share about that? I think that's the gist of it. It's really like creating your kingdom. And again, this was the part where you go back to level 1 again. Like anytime we're leading people and guiding and something happens and we start to get upset, it's like, oh yeah, I got to go inside and tune into what part of me is upset with this when someone's not doing what I'm saying or when something went wrong. And ultimately connecting with our inner children. And I do mean children, because there's like all these different points in time where we had experiences and things we took on, messages at different ages. And so it's kind of like connecting to those different ages inside sometimes and being like, oh wow, okay, this is like 5-year-old Jason, and then later it's like teenage Jason, and guiding them and be supportive of them, and ultimately letting them know this is where we're going. So hopefully this series was helpful. Maybe I'll throw a 4th one on there for levels of sovereignty, and there's many. And again, this is just an energetic perspective and something I felt inspired to do. Hope you're all having an amazing day. Have an amazing year this year. It's going to be transformative. If you want to work with me further or receive more of this information, you can go to jasondonaldsonhealer.com. I have multiple offerings there, and I also send out a newsletter from time to time about self-mastery. So stuff like this nature, as that's my ultimate goal in this lifetime, is to attain that. So hope you're all having an amazing time in this wonderful journey of life. I'll catch you all later. Aloha.